So, I mean, for me, it is so easy. That's why I requested this to you. I have all this information and thoughts and understandings that I evolved in 40 years of involvement with Indian dance and with Chidambaram Temple and Dikshitar and my own quests, my personal quests. And I do not have the energy anymore to give it shape in articles or even to talk and make videos myself. So, you ask me what you want to know, then we'll take it from there.
Done. Right. I'm very happy that we're doing this.
Yes, oh yeah, this is so herewith I release all my copyright to you, and my only request is that to keep the material as much as possible in the public domain.
Yes. You will be with us to share all of this in the public domain, and
by their grace.
We'll keep, yes, and we will keep the you have inspired me to understand that men may come and men may go, but that knowledge stream will live on forever. Ever Absolutely. Since you made that call to me, I've realized that we all are working on a calling, and somehow this job is so much bigger than all of us.
Yes. I mean, the evolution of consciousness is, I mean, I've seen it also. We lose knowledge, but we also regain knowledge, and everything shifts. And personally, from my research, I connect that to the process of precession. Do you know what I'm talking about? When I say
elaborate, do elaborate.
I mean, the Earth. When we look from the Earth to the outside, there is the zodiac. And there is this process that we have midwinter, midsummer, Uttarayana, Dakshinayana. And those points, like the equinoxes and the Uttarayana and Dakshinayana, the points where they are or where the sun is, in respect to the constellations, it shifts. So we have divided the circle in 360 degrees. I don't think that's accidental, because then you generate all kinds of numbers that are extremely meaningful. And so it shifts 1 degree in 72 years approximately. Now the Tamil calendar is perfectly following that. Like in the West, we have this tropical zodiac. So we have fixed the equinoxes and the solstices to the 21st December, 21st March, 21st June, 21st September. In India, they have solved it in a different way. They have fixed the solstice, the winter solstice, to 0 degree Makara. But in reality, now, that was done like 24 into 72 years, about 1500 years ago, in the time of Varaha Mihira.
You won't mind if I have a cup of tea as we speak?
No, please, I have one myself.
Great.
I need to drink some water from time to time. Oh, I have to get it. I forgot to organize it.
Oh, I'll wait. Please go and get your water. You don't want to hydrate.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So our Earth is in the process of shifting of these 4 points, the 4 points of the year, which make a cross. They are in the process of shifting through the complete zodiac, and that takes 25,100 something years. Short, people say 26,000 years. And in the Vedic and Hindu Puranic mythology, I don't like the word Hindu, you can, so these points shift, and I have seen, like in the rituals, in the Vedic rituals and in the Puranic and the Agamic rituals, you can see how these shifts are commemorated through mythology, through ritual. For instance, like people celebrate Pongal. Pongal is solstice, Uttarayana, but it now falls on the 15th of January. 10, 20 years ago, it was falling on the 14th of January. And in that way, if it shifts, because the Tamil calendar is the sidereal calendar, so it follows exactly when the sun moves to the next constellation. And the Western zodiac, they have fixed the equinox, they have fixed the dates to the equinoxes. That's why it's called a tropical zodiac. So, and it creates a lot of confusion. When I first came to India, and I visited some temples and Pongal, and people said, "Oh, now this is winter solstice," and winter solstice, 14th of January. Huh. What is this? And then I thought, but I have one thing, I know the ancient Indians, I'm not talking about the last 500 years or even the last 1,000 years, or my guess is that break lies in 1311, when the big raids were done from Delhi. Till that time, people were guided by the knowledge, by the tradition. The problem was they were doing it, they were performing it, but like this Uttarayana. Uttarayana is connected to Pongal, 0 degree Makara, the moment the sun moves to Makara, Mahasamkranti. But actually Uttarayana is which is in the English calendar, the 15th of January, 14th, 15th of January. But in reality, it happens on the 21st of December. So if you don't think deeper, you can think, oh, these stupid people, they haven't got a clue what they're doing. No, they got a very good clue what they're doing. And that has always, in my whole connection with India, that has always been my premise, that if you look in these ancient traditions, even if you don't understand it, it means it is my problem. It's not the traditions. The traditions, they reflect knowledge. It's all knowledge systems. The only thing is, it has shifted because, you know, the oldest layers of the Vedas, they go back maybe to 8000 BC.
Right.
The Sangam literature, the story about the flooding of Kumari Kandan, that goes to 12,000 BC. That goes to the melting of the ice. You know, when the Ice Age was finished. And of course, Western academics, they all laugh at it and they don't want to take it serious. I take it serious. I am sure these are very faint memories, you know, to keep knowledge for 12,000 years, or 14,000 years. It was 12,000 BC or 10,000 BC. I mean, I don't remember those things specifically, but you know, even we hardly know what we did yesterday. I mean, the memory of the human civilization. We are a species with complete memory loss. You know, unless it is written down or chanted or conveyed. And yeah, if people convey something that they don't understand anymore, one day they will wake up. They will think, why am I doing this? What's the purpose? What's the point? And they'll drop it from their hands. And that has happened in the West, with Christianity, and later with Islam, and you know, and of course, and it is now happening in India. And I'm terrified when I see how much knowledge has been lost in the past 150, 200, 500 years, 1,000 years, I don't know. At the same time, I have realized that this shift of these solstice points means that we are shifting through different phases of civilization. Like the period that the equinox was in Taurus, was in Vrishabha, we were worshipping the bull, we were worshipping Shiva. And when, you know, that is like 4,000 years ago. And then when the equinox was in Orion, we were worshipping the Ashwins. And then you have the Ashwata tree, which is the Milky Way, the tree under which the horses stand. So, you know, there was a period that the horse was sacred. And And you find this all over the world, and not only in India, but of course, because of Christianity and Islam, in many places, these traditions have been wiped away and have been reduced to just faint memories, or you can only find them in old books, or and the amazing thing for me to function in India is that there is a living tradition, and that so many things are still being done. Like, you know, the best example is like Uttarayana. It's celebrated, you know, it happens on the 21st of December in the English, in the Western tropical calendar. Then it is celebrated on Pongal, on the 1st of Thai. It is celebrated in Thai on Ratha Saptami. Ratha Saptami, that is the 7th day of the bright half of the lunar calendar in the month of Thai. I have never been able to decode why they connected to the 7th day of the lunar half month. You know, that is, I mean, I've been working on these things for 30, 40 years, and I only have more questions every day. And they celebrated one more time in Masi Maga, Masa, in the month of Masi, where there is also a Ratha Saptami. And then in summer, the summer solstice is celebrated on Adi Piruku, which falls on the 3rd of August. And there's 43 days between the actual summer solstice and Adi Piruku. And then you do 43 days into 72, and you end up, I don't know, like 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, something like that. So, you know, and the sad thing, of course, is that the Tamil tradition has not been studied properly, because even all of India has not been studied properly, because everything is seen in the reflection of the Aryan invasion theory, which never happened. So now we start realizing, I mean, I realized 30 years ago, but at that time, I didn't even have proof. I was just in the Dikshitar's house in Chidambaram, and I looked around at how the Dikshitars functioned and how they were Tamils and Dikshitar. So they were Vedic and Tamilians at the same time. And I realized there was no conflict. That all the academic books that I read, I started reading academic literature while I was before my Arangetram with my guru, because I was studying history. So, you know, I also went to the Indological library and I started reading those books. And there was this total disconnect between the India of my dance teacher and the India of the academic books. And then I was quite in doubt for quite some time. But then one day I realized all this, because I couldn't imagine that 150 years of intelligent people, you know, would have just got it totally wrong, you know, for 150 years. I mean, these professors and Sanskritists and academicians, they were not stupid, they were intelligent people. So, you know, I just, you know, I doubted my guru, and I doubted my experiences in India, because when I read the academic literature, I thought, you know, these are two different worlds. They have nothing to do with each other. There's no connection between them. And I realized that it is true. For 150 years, academic Western research into Indian traditions is largely 98% bullshit, because it's all done on the basis of this Aryan invasion theory. So the whole way that, you know, and it is politically sensitive, because of course the whole Tamil politics in the past 100 years has been on this Dravidian movement, and the Aryans are invaders, and, you know, we are the suppressed people, so, you know, we can't trust Delhi, and it's very sensitive. But I have come to understand that the Vedic tradition is an Indian development, and I think sort of the Vedic Sanskrit tradition and the Tamil tradition, they are two sides of the same coin. Like, I think that the Tamil calendar could be more ancient than the Vedic calendar because of being connected to the procession. So it shows, you know, the fact that they follow procession, and that this calendar shifts, and that Pongal moves from 14th January to 15th January. I don't know who's doing these calendars. I don't know the mathematics behind it, but somebody knows. Somebody made these formulas. So it is, how can I say? Yeah, we have to start all over. If we want to really properly understand India, we have to start all over. And we have to evaluate the Tamil traditions and the North Indian traditions. And in the Mahabharata, the Pandyas and the Pandyas and the Cholas are mentioned. So and I came to this because of reading about Kumari Kandan and the flooding, because I was interested in this very ancient layers of human history. Because I do believe that there could have been more ancient civilizations before ours. That means from before the melting of the ice. And like, for instance, Ujjain. Ujjain is Ujjain is the prime meridian, but it's also stated to be on the Tropic of Cancer. And the Tropic of Cancer, actually, the tropics, they have a shift. They have a cycle of 42,000 years. And the actual Tropic of Cancer, it is in my blog somewhere. I wrote about it long ago. The actual Tropic of Cancer is to the north of Ujjain, and it's moving to the south. And it was 32,000 years ago that the Tropic of Cancer was on Ujjain. So this tradition could be 30,000 years old. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Western academics, Western science doesn't take this kind of thinking serious. I take the Indian tradition serious, even when it doesn't understand itself anymore. And I think I have to drink water. It's my sign. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Of course.
So, I mean, I have to confess, to me, a lot of this, I'm not as well versed with cosmology as, of course, obviously you. So I'm listening to this with a lot of interest. But what does strike me is, even within India, and you may be aware that there is new scholarship by the Indians, about the about the Aryan invasion. Like, for example, Tony Joseph, right, has written the early Indian, the book. I'm sure
I don't know that one. I'm familiar with the work of the Michel Danino, of Vedvir Arya, with the work of this Professor Casanas.
Right.
I'm familiar with the work of Frawley, but I know, now a lot of younger people come
Tony
up.
Joseph is fairly new, so that's why I just brought him up. Very new,
good.
In fact.
Good.
So he talks about, I think they are talking about the larger global research that's going on about how we are all migrants, in fact. Sort of look at the Dravidian soil as a moving, shifting. So in that sense, it's a different stance from, we are the natives, you are the migrants, which was the Aryan invasion theory. So here now they're saying, look, the Aryans came in, no doubt, but we were also, the so-called natives are also a mixture of so many different migrant
cultures. I think the Vedic tradition was developed in the Saraswati area, where the river Saraswati was. Like, for instance, the whole Vedic science is encoded in rituals in which they use sun-dried bricks. Okay, if they had come from somewhere in southern Russia, who you think people there? The weather, half the year it will be freezing. Who will base their science, their ritual and science on sun-dried bricks? I'm quite sure this was a local development. And then it stops for me. I haven't got the resources to, other people will do that. I'm sure it will be taken up.
Right.
But for me, this was one of the earliest realizations when I had just started working together with the Dikshitar, that completely shifted my perspective. You asked me, how is it to be, one of your questions was how was it to be involved with this art, and this was one of the this was one of the defining moments, realizing that the Aryan invasion never happened. Yeah, and then of course we have to start all over. So mainly the research that we did while the Dikshita was alive was also in the history of his temple, because so little has been left, and from the academic side, so many, yeah, in a way, horrible things are said, manipulative things, and so he was always trying to counter those things. That was one of the things we did, but that is not so relevant for
Right.
our discussion.
I'm going to go back to my first question.
Yeah,
You know,
please.
the deep connection between, and I think you are the perfect person to talk about this, between cosmology, about
Hmm.
which you are deeply engaged,
Yeah,
art of dance, and
yeah,
Saivam, because you have been working with the Dikshitar.
yeah,
And so Shaivism, we tend to see it as a cult, as one of the
yeah,
religious cults within the practice of religion of Hindu. Or I was also intrigued by
yeah,
what you said about not wanting to call it Hinduism. I'll come
yeah,
to that
yeah.
question later. But this
Okay.
connection between cosmology, dance, and Shaivism.
Yeah. Well, I think what we have been taught to perceive as cults are knowledge systems. And I have come to understand from, also, I'm not only interested in India, I mean, I've also looked at, yeah, briefly, superficially, at other traditions. So they are all knowledge systems. And basically what they do is they complement each other. And then it becomes doctrine, and then it becomes dogma, and then people don't understand each other anymore. And I have very little knowledge of, for instance, about the Shaiva knowledge system, because I didn't live in it. So yeah, that was one of the things I had on my list for to-do list for the next 30 years, to see how these two knowledge systems complement each other, or um, I mean, like, I am sure that okay, I can talk about Shaivism. Okay, we have the Shaiva temples. The temples are all, I think, the temples, the rituals, the dances, the mythologies. I think it's all encoded cosmology. It's science.
Mm.
And that we don't know is our problem. It's our stupidity. Once you look at it, it was all left. The keys are there. The thing is, because we have been indoctrinated by our upbringing, me in the West completely, of course, because I was brought up in a Christian country, of course, with a scientific, um, yeah, with the science there. But I mean, this my country is completely Christian in its perspectives of everything. And I'm not a Christian. I was never baptized. My parents had left the church. My father walked out, and my mother never was in the church. Her family had already walked out before. But yeah, at some point in time, everybody would have been Christian. You couldn't, otherwise they would chop your head off. So yeah, or put you on the burn you, whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's also in a way a knowledge system. Once you go a bit deeper into the Bible, I think Christ never existed, and there is wonderful work has been done on this by Michael Lockwood, the great person, the great professor on Pallava art history. That's what he's been doing the last 10 years, I think, researching the fact that Christianity and the whole Bible, both Old and New Testament, is basically all mythology that has been composed probably in the Alexandrian library in the 3rd century BC. So so but still it's a knowledge system, because it was composed out of what people had, out of existing knowledge. So this knowledge is translated and given new shape and given new interpretations. And you see that also in India, because I mean, when you look at the Vedic mythology and the Vedic rituals, for the most part, even the people whose um, who's like the Dikshitars or the Nambudris. I mean, like they have rescued the Agni Chayana ritual that was done by Utrecht University and I don't know, I think California University, two Western universities. 30, 40 years ago, they went to Kerala and they collected some Nambudris and they had a bit of money. They had some subsidies. So they did the Agni Chayana, and otherwise probably the Agni Chayana would have been lost. And so much has been lost. And the thing is, I believe that we are permanently in that flow of consciousness. And I also believe we evolve. So knowledge does change. And like this thing about celebrating Uttarayana, physically it happens on the 21st of December. Then we celebrate it on 15th of January. We celebrate it in Thai Masa on Ratha Saptami and in Masi Masa on Ratha Saptami. So, and the interesting thing is that in India, it's all still there. It's like archaeology. You can peel off the layers and you can go back and you can see Ratha Saptami in Masi. That is the Vedic period. There are these rituals, these Soma rituals.
December 21st here in India?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No. Of course, the birth of Jesus on the 24th of December is related to it. Sort of in all the traditions all over the world, you see that new gods, or, because there is this astrological connection with this precession process, you see that new movements connect to these moments, to these cosmological moments. So like the alignments of Stonehenge is aligned to midwinter, and many of these stone circles also in India, the megalithic monuments are aligned to midwinter and to midsummer or to equinox. but there's a lot of work that could be done on that, on decoding it, because these things go really back. Like the story about Kumari Kandam goes back 12,000 years or 13,000 years or so.
Can I ask you to speak a little bit about Nataraja?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
The cosmic, what is cosmic about Nataraja? That's a very simple question. One that
I'll tell you. This was the big question. How is it that this specific frozen movement with the lifted leg touches everybody, whether they know anything about it or not? I mean, everybody goes back from India and takes one with them and they put them somewhere in the house. You see them in movies, you see them in the sets of movies sometimes. There was this, Raja and I, of course, we were very observant about this. There is this comedy, Murphy Brown. It's a comedy from the 80s and the 90s. And this lady in her office behind her, she had this Shiva, Anandatandava with Parvati, with the, the way it should be, with the goddess together. She had that in the behind her desk. So every time we watched that series, we would see the Lord and Mother there. That was quite strange. So it has this. So I have been asking myself this question already for 40 years. How is it that this does this to people? And I don't know. I don't have the answer. No, I've been thinking about it for 40 years. I think all the Tandavas convey cosmic. I mean, of course, we have the doctrine, the 5 activities and the Mahabhutas, the 5 elements. I'm in a process of publishing some essays that Raja and I wrote long ago, which we had on our website long ago. And I'm putting it out now because I don't know what will happen. So I want it to be part of the public domain. And because actually I had been planning, I had a lot of thoughts developed. I mean, we did this in the sort of like the 1998, 1999, we wrote these essays, and it is 20 years ago. So while he was alive, we still developed, and we talked about it and we thought about it. And after he died, I continued my own thinking. So I have a lot more to say, but now I don't know if I'll get the time to say it. So there is this connection between consciousness and Akasha. I think the Akasha, Shariram, Brahma. The Akasha is that is from the Upanishad. The Akasha is the embodiment of Brahma, of spirit, of consciousness. And of course, that is reflected in the Chitsabha, in the whole doctrine of the temple. And then it is this particular movement that embodies it all. And so I think the language of dance, I thought, maybe it is because the human body is also formed in the phi, in the according to the golden ratio.
Right.
Or maybe it is for different reasons. I don't know. But I think the Tandavas, but also Krishna's dance, I think the divine dance all represents specific states of consciousness, knowledge. The Urdhva Tandava, you have lists, 7 Tandavas, 12 Tandavas, 16 Tandavas, 21 Tandavas. You have the Ashtaviratam. And so I think somehow our ancestors had this vision. I mean, they had connections to levels of consciousness we can hardly imagine. The rishis, the seers, of course. So they put this in human shape. And Raja used to call the festival like a visual yoga. So, and of course the Natya Shastra, Indra asked Brahma, create a Veda that is accessible to all, because the 4 Vedas are only accessible to Brahmins. And then the drama is created. And yeah, that says it all in a way. That is, in a few lines, it encapsulates it, because we look at ourselves. We dance for each other. Somebody dances, there's an audience, and there's this interaction where rasa is created. So there is this transmutation of consciousness. And why this form conveys this truth about cosmic consciousness and creation and preservation and destruction, that I don't know. This is beyond me. It is.
The follow-up question to this is, because you have been working in Chidambaram and with the Dikshitar. Chidambaram, as you know, is Tillai. And Tillai is not famous just for Shiva. In fact, before him, it was famous for Kali. Tillai Kali.
Yeah, that is a big mystery. Where that myth, that is to other Tandava, that is to Urdhva Tandava. And sort of when I try to think about the meaning of the Tandavas and what they convey, then you have the Ananda Tandava, the Urdhva Tandava. Those are some of the Tandavas that have specific form, and the whole Kali one, because there are different versions of this myth. The myth is not in the Stala Purana as I know it. I have only access to one Stala Purana, the Chidambara Mahatmyam, the way it has been published by Kuke in a German analysis, which is not a complete translation. But for instance, I also have the translation of the Tamil, the Koil Purana from Umapati Shivacharya, and the Kali story is not in that one either. But the whole thing, of course, that
was, you spoke about Ujjain as one of the earliest civilizations, right? And Ujjain is connected to Kali, and Kali worship has been something that has been part of our civilization from so long ago. And she is supposed to be a primordial female dancer. Have you, Dikshitar, or you later on, have you reflected on the female dance?
Now, I think these are layers. I mean, like the Vedic tradition, what we have, that goes back maybe 8,000 years or something, and that is thoroughly patriarchal. And I'm sure in a way that's already late. I mean, the whole story about Kali moving, but Raja thought that even in relatively historic times, the Kali temple was still inside the campus.
Right.
And the whole thing about the Urdhva and the Nitya, that's not correct, because the Nitya has been disturbed. And the Urdhva Murti that is under worship there, that sanctum that has been created, Raja told me, that's been created because in the late 19th century, some people wanted to renovate the temple, and they cut the Nitya. So the Nitya is not symmetrical anymore. And some of the murtis that were in the niches, like there are still two murtis, a Kankala Murti and a Shiva Parvati, I forgot the name, the sort of, I think with the that he leans on the bull, but I'm not sure. I could be wrong there. So, but there were behind it, there are niches, and they, huh?
The Rishabhantika.
I think so, yeah. But I'm not sure. It might be without the Rishabha. I forget. But there are more niches, and that is now part of the Vishnu complex that has been, and I know somebody did research about that. Corinna's husband has published about that. Because he went there, he was able to go in, and those niches are now empty. But Raja knew that some of the murtis that were, so that entrance has been made there because the Dikshitars wanted to cover the whole prakara. And to do that, they had to bring in these huge columns. And that's why the wall was breached on the south. I mean, I know a lot of political nonsense is being done about that entrance, but that entrance was specifically made for this, covering this prakara. And they cut the Nitya. So there are some murtis that are now in the inner courtyard. And also Raja thought that the Urdhva Murti there in the Nitya that is now under worship was originally a niche Murti. And he said they turned it, he says, like 100 years before, like late 19th century, they made it under worship because then it could not be disturbed any further. Because then it was a sanctum.
Right.
So, but that was his speculation, he wasn't sure. And he was very upset because his ancestors, they write everything down, and when the book is full, they buy a new book and they throw away the old book. So yeah, I mean, I don't want, but that's the way traditional people sometimes do things. I know that they used to, if they copy a manuscript, they throw the old manuscript is put into water because of the power, and it shouldn't get neglected, and it shouldn't be disturbed and stuff like that. But that means if a manuscript is copied in the wrong way with mistakes, and you don't have the original anymore, okay. So I mean, a lot has been lost over the centuries. Right. And the one of the things that when the first time when I came to Chidambaram, I had an unimaginable spiritual experience. That the energy that came to me was, that completely changed me, and it was like coming home, and it made me cry for hours. And that's when my guru said, I was with my guru, and then she said, Liesbeth, you want to dance here? And I said, how can I? I'm a white girl. But she organized it, and that was one of the miraculous events in my life. Absolutely.
Do you want to talk about that moment?
Let me go back to the Kali thing, because that time one of the Dikshitar, our family Dikshitar, that was not my Nataraja Ratina Dikshitar, with whom I later had a relationship. That was different people, and he took me around, and he told two different versions of this myth. So this myth, the dance contest, is that Kali and Shiva do this dance contest, and he raises his leg and she can't do it because of chastity, so she loses the dance contest. That is the one we are all hearing now. Yeah, and that is also strange, because when you go to the old reliefs, you can see that women used to dance with their legs up. So, till the 12th, 13th century. So this is, so this Dikshita told me this different myth. Shiva and Kali did the dance contest and he lost his earring. And that would have meant he lost. To cover up that he lost, he took his earring with his big toe and put it back in his ear. And that's why he made the Urdhva. And then she was a wise woman and she said, okay, big boy, if you want to win like this, be my guest.
Wow, that makes
I'll move
so much more sense. And this story was told to you by Raja Dikshita?
No, but Raja Dikshita also knew the story. This was told to me by another Dikshita who was at that time the family Dikshita of my guru. His name was Shankar.
Tell you where this particular...
This was all translated from Tamil to me into English by my guru. So he was talking to her, and she would give me the tasty bits. And this was told to us when we were on way to the Kali temple, when I offered my dance the first time to Lord Nataraja. So I've always known these two versions, and it makes so much sense to me. And you have these layers. You have these layers of meaning where the meaning shifts because sometimes people forget, and then they project new meaning on it, and you see that happening all over the place. And it also happened in India. It also happened. So I'm so glad I'm able to share this alternative vision.
I'm very excited to hear this from you.
Yeah. So actually he lost. And then Raja was actively searching where the Kali temple would have been in the complex because his father had told him things and his uncles and, so there, but he also said, like, for instance, in the olden days, that was not when he was young, that was when his father was young. There was no chariot festival in the car streets. The chariot festival would have been in the great Prakara. So it would have been much smaller affair. And of course, there were that everybody could enter the temples. That's only since independence. I mean, we don't realize that anymore, but till relatively recently, temples were very exclusive places for most of the time. On the other hand, the festivals were so that also people who couldn't go inside could see the Lord. So that contradicts it, because then it means that people would at least would have been able to enter the outer courtyards. But yeah, I mean, even that much has been forgotten, anyhow.
So, I think we are nearing our time mark.
I think for today, this is...
Yeah, but I thought if you want to talk a little bit about your personal journey, how, where did it begin? How did you read these texts? Were you reading them in translation? I mean,
for the most part, yes. One of my big handicaps is that I don't have a talent for learning languages. I have a couple of invisible handicaps, which have definitely impacted my life. I'm dyslexic, I have dyscalculia, and I'm autistic. And this I realized only relatively the last bit. I realized all these things I realized only later in life. The big thing is my mother put me in ballet class when I was 4. And that saved me from a life of not being able to read and write. I have a cousin that's 10 years older, and she is analphabetic. And on my mother's side, the whole family is dyslexic, more or less. Not everybody as much as everybody. Yeah, it's different. But, I have a lot of cousins whose children also have dyslexia. And but she put me in ballet class. And I don't know whether she did that consciously or not, because she died when I was 14 and we didn't have a good relationship. So she never told me anything about why she did what she did. I don't know. It's one of the big things behind my illness. What went wrong between me and my mother. And she also died of breast cancer. Her father died of breast cancer, but I don't have the genes, so that is weird. Um, but she put me in ballet class when I was 4, and I went to primary school, and I learned to read and write without any problems. The only thing is I can never have an A for dictations. When I write, I don't see letters, and I forget things, and I miss words or parts of words. And yeah, that was actually, to me, in a way, it's not an issue. But I don't, because of these handicaps, I learned English very easily. I learned English by watching. In Holland, we have subtitles. And when I was 10, 11 years old, I got interested. So I would listen to what the people said in English, and I would read the subtitles. So I learned English long before I learned it in school. But later I tried to learn Sanskrit, and I've been studying Sanskrit for 30 years, and I'm not even kindergarten level, because I just don't remember it, you know? So I'm very good in visual things. I'm very good at remembering situations and context. And that's how my research works. I connect things that nobody sees are connected. And then I do the research, and then I prove that they are connected. You know, like this thing about Uttarayana. You know, I'm in India with my guru the first time, and we celebrate Pongal, and people tell me it is solstice. Okay, as far as I know, solstice is on the 21st of December. What is happening here? But I know the Indians aren't stupid. The ancient Indians were definitely not stupid, so there was a reason. So it took me maybe 10 years to realize it. I only when I made the connection to precession, that was maybe 12, 15 years later. That's when I started realizing, and that's when I started decoding these these peculiarities of festivals and calendars and stuff like that. And now I know that it is a very important thing, and that, yeah, our earth moves, you know, as these solstice points shift through the constellations, the energies that are active on our planet under which we operate, they shift. So there will be different gods, there will be different religions, there will be different understandings, there will be different emotions. And yeah, okay, you asked about my personal journey. Okay, so when I was 4, I went to ballet. I was put in ballet class, which which saved me from a lot of trouble with these handicaps. And when I was 12, I saw Indian dance on TV, and I was watching it, and I thought, you know, in ballet you have these, you know, I call it dead hands. I'm quite sure, you know, people wouldn't agree with me, but you have these hands, and you just hold them like this, and that's all you do with it. And there was this man, there was this lady, and was telling stories about Krishna, and was using the hands in the nritta. I think it must have been a Bharatanatyam dancer. So I watched this, and I was so caught. I even asked my mother, can I learn this? But there wasn't anybody to learn from. So yeah, that took till I was 22, 23 when I met Rajamani. And so
That's how it all began.
that's how it all began. And yeah, okay, that's a long time ago. So a lot of water under the bridge in the meantime. And yeah, now I'm here, and I'm sharing these stories with you.
What a
To
delightful conversation.
Yeah.
I'm, I'm very positive, and I'm going to pause the video here.